We want to be the #1 Amazon agency in Taiwan. And, winning the award was a great first step.
Yeah.
But nowhere are we near even where we want to be.
Recently, congratulations to you guys.
Yeah.
You guys won an award called the Neotrade Award. And you just told me just now it's likened to basically the Oscars for e-commerce.
Yeah, that is correct. It's just a lot of competition. It's like over 80 companies that really try to fight for this award. And we basically took like first place, which is the Gold Award.
Wow.
Out of like 80 plus companies.
Yeah.
And so, and that is really all about e-commerce, everything in commerce in Taiwan.
Okay.
Because I believe that it's all about long-term. And I only want to build the brands in Taiwan that have the highest potential because I want to help Taiwan's economy.
Mr. James.
Oh my goodness. The first male guest on the show. It's been all girls.
What a privilege, man.
What a pimp.
Welcome back to FUNDAY Chat. My name is Wade, and today we have our very special guest because it is the first male guest on the show. And his name is Mr. James.
Oh my goodness. The first male guest on the show. It's been all girls.
What a privilege, man.
What a pimp.
Yeah. So why James?
Why James?
Yeah, who is James? Who is James?
Who is James? So my background is I co-founded my company here, Real Digital. We are a Amazon agency here in Taiwan. And then also I co-founded Salt Collective, a nonprofit, which you, my friend, are a part of, and how we really kind of met.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, James and I know each other through Salt, and we'll cover that in our second half of this portion. But this first half, like you said, Real Digital is this marketing, online e-commerce basically, agency. And I mean, I know a little bit about it, but not a whole lot. But recently, congratulations to you guys.
Yeah.
You guys won an award called the Neotrade Award. And you just told me just now it's likened to basically the Oscars for e-commerce.
Yeah, that is correct.
So tell us about that. That's very cool.
Yeah, so it was a pretty big deal this year for us to finally win it. Last year, we also applied. It's just a lot of competition. It's like over 80 companies that really try to fight for this award.
Okay.
And we basically took like first place, which is the Gold Award.
Wow.
Out of like 80 plus companies.
Yeah.
And so, and that is really all about e-commerce, everything in commerce in Taiwan.
Okay.
And so we're lucky enough to have the mayor come on board.
Yes.
And,
you guys
hand us the award.
Picture.
Yeah. So what my company, Real Digital, we do is we help Taiwanese manufacturers and also brands to sell abroad.
Okay.
And as you know, like Taiwan is actually a manufacturing powerhouse.
Yeah.
Taiwanese manufacturers are really, pay attention detail to the actual products.
Yeah.
And really like awesome products.
Right. Back in the day, you always have made in Taiwan, right?
Exactly.
You had a lot of those products.
But here's a problem. Taiwanese people don't really know how to market it to the West.
That's what I was going to say, right? Yeah. They probably do well locally or like in Asia markets, but I feel like it would be different.
So there's a lot of products actually like, in the US, if you go to Fry's Electronics, where there's a lot of 3C products that are all made in Taiwan.
Really?
And the thing is that a lot of our clients actually used to sell to Fry's. And the funny thing is most of these are kind of B2B companies that kind of have a semi B2C brand.
Okay.
So they're kind of like, on the cheaper level and they don't really know how to brand themselves.
Gotcha.
So our job is we really kind of help these companies market to the States,
right?
And also just all over the world, especially to the West,
and particularly on Amazon.
And and we only do Amazon as the platform.
Okay.
And so a lot of Taiwanese brands and manufacturers we work with.
Yeah.
And so we basically educate and teach them, and then also execute.
Okay.
And we really try to get a brand up and running within like I would say 3 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into more of the details of your company, like, what is your background? What's your credentials? Give us a little rundown there.
Yeah, so I actually come from a branding background. So I've been doing filmmaking, production since at the age of 13. So I've been doing this for a very, very long time.
Started young?
Yeah. And then, so I've been making...
What got you into it?
Just interest.
Okay.
One day, like literally one of my buddies just knocked on my door and he's like, hey, we're making a film for film production class. Would you like to be an actor in it? And I was like, what, who are you guys?
Yeah. And they asked you to be an actor first?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're like, hey man, like, you're not doing anything, right? You're just chilling. I'm like, hey, I'm just chilling. And the next thing you know, I started making a feature length film on my own and got the whole community involved.
Wow. Okay.
And then I made a 60-minute gangster movie.
At 13?
This was actually in high school. So when I was like a senior in high school.
Wow.
And then we showed that, you know, in high school, everyone was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually pretty good.
Yeah, you are a gangster, man.
So that's the road that I took. I studied theater. I studied, you know, like a bunch of stuff in college. And
in the States?
In the States, yeah, at UC San Diego.
Gotcha.
And so studied, I learned quite a lot. You know, I had a major in international economics and Chinese studies. I minored in law and also, again, theater. So I had a lot of interests.
Wow.
Did a bunch of theater productions, acted in a lot of independent films. And then kind of took on an acting career actually straight out of college for a couple of years.
Wow.
So
didn't know that.
Yeah, went to Shanghai, lived there for a couple of years, did a bunch of movies. And then everyone around me was like, dude, I think you have a talent for like filmmaking. Why don't you go into directing?
Okay.
And then so I did. And I had so many friends in the entertainment industry. They were like, hey man, we'll provide you with support. Yeah. Yeah. So I made my first short film and I titled it 600 because I literally made the movie
600?
For 600 RMB.
Wait, is it like 300 times 2?
Yeah.
This is Sparta times 2.
That movie was basically about the life of an expat living abroad.
Okay.
And
very applicable.
Yeah. And then so, you know, I lived in Shanghai for a couple of years, lived that lifestyle and met a lot of people. And so I basically transcended a lot of those experiences into the film. And what I didn't expect was that film ended up actually touring and winning a bunch of awards, especially actually in Europe and the US.
Wow.
And so, you know, the amazing thing about that experience was that after every showing at film festivals, I would always have 1 or 2 guys that just come up to me.
Reach out. Yeah.
And they go, hey, James, you don't know me. My name is Josh. I lived in Japan. I taught English there for a couple of years. And all I want to say is just like, oh, my gosh, you nailed it. Like you nailed my experience being an English teacher, living abroad. And as an expat, like just want to thank you. And so that really made me fall in love with filmmaking. Wow. So then I started, you know, transitioning into commercial films. Yeah. So did a lot of commercials with a lot of big brands. And so that's when I got into the marketing aspect. Okay. And so learn about, you know, like you go through proposals, you understand how big companies market to the masses. Right. And I became the director for a lot of these productions. Okay. And then what happened was after that, when Amazon Taiwan approached me and they said, hey, James, we know about your background.
Oh, so they reached out.
Yeah. You know, and then so they saw the talent and, you know, like kind of like my commercial style, which is very American. Yeah. You know, like very clean and very straight to the point. And they say, hey, man, our Amazon products, a lot of the Amazon clients in Taiwan need videos like this. They don't know how to make a video like this. Right. And so
to speak to the audience there specifically, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so, you know, Taiwanese style, and if you guys watch TV, like, you know, in Taiwan, it's very different. You know, the commercials here, the humor, the timing, the music, the pace, everything.
Yeah. So actually, you know, just to insert here, I felt that so much actually coming back from the States or like a Western mindset. Because I also grew up partly here and then I moved away. And then when I came back, I think I was so accustomed to the style of the West, you know, again, like you mentioned, clean, right? Clean and to the point. And then coming back, I was like bombarded with like these effects and like these sound and like all these things.
It's just different.
Yeah, very different. And I didn't necessarily appreciate it at first. I thought it was so overstimulating and sometimes like just too much. And I think I was more a minimalist, right? Wanting it to be clean. But I will say, you know, there is pros and cons to either or. Yeah. And even just, for example, with, let's say, titles. Subtitles were like a common thing, obviously, in Taiwan. I think like most people are so accustomed to it because they watch Western movies and for sure there'll be subtitles. But for us, like in the West, when you watch movies, it's just a movie. You're just listening. Exactly. But it's pretty funny how it's changing, right? Yeah. So now subtitles is almost a must when you're putting videos, when you're doing things. So that's pretty interesting because I think that I made the similar observation.
I mean, if you watch Netflix now and you start seeing like movies from like countries that you've never even probably watched movies from. Right. Right? Yeah. And then for those
Korean,
movies,
Japanese.
You need the subtitles. So I think like subtitles has changed kind of like, you know, our lifestyle and how we enjoy entertainment. Yeah, for sure. And I've noticed myself, I didn't before used to use sub. Now I'm using subtitles on everything. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I don't even need it. Why am I? It's a habit. Yeah.
That's cool.
So, you know, I think that's definitely, like you said, a trend. And so, you know, that's the trend that, you know, Amazon, they wanted. Gotcha. They said, look, man, you know, in order to sell on Amazon in the US, your product's got to look like it was made in the US. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest, you know, pain points for Chinese sellers, Taiwanese sellers, Asian sellers all over is they don't know how to make their content on their listing look like it's made in the US.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of my specialty.
Okay, so how long ago did they approach you? And
this was about like, I would say 5-6 years ago.
That's when you started
So
Real Digital.
I started becoming almost like a branding consultant
Okay.
for Amazon. So I went there to give seminars and started teaching, you know, a lot of their VIP sellers how to do their branding. And that's, you know, obviously a lot of them ended up hiring me.
Gotcha.
And so they just said, all right, man, like, we don't even know how to do this. Yeah, you gave a cool seminar, but we don't know how to do any of that.
Like, let you handle that
How about
part.
we just let you handle it?
Gotcha.
And then so that ended up happening, and some of the big, you know, a couple of pretty big brands hired me to do some of their stuff. And then the next thing became, hey, wow, these videos are really good.
Yeah.
Like, you are so good at execution. How about we start giving you our marketing gigs? And I was like, wait, whoa, what?
Yeah.
I'm just the film dude.
Yeah.
And so I was presented with a very unique opportunity where I was giving that. And they said, hey, budget-wise, we got you.
Wow.
If you want to build a team, let's get you a team. And you can basically outsourcing all their marketing to my company.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when we started taking over. We took over a lot of the social media. And once that happened, you know, the next step progression is e-commerce.
Right. Okay.
So then they said, hey, man, we want you to take over our Amazon stuff. And I was like, I don't have an Amazon team. I'm just the branding dude.
Yeah. And it was just you at the time, or?
It was me and then the team that I had.
Okay.
And so, you know, and at that time, you know, I was like, oh, man, I need an Amazon guy.
Yeah.
And that's when I met, you know, my now business partner, Eugene.
Mr. Eugene.
Shout out
our
to
mutual
Eugene.
friend, yeah.
And so I met Eugene at a birthday party, and, you know, with the Aussie accent, you know, he was like, hey,
with
I'm
all
Eugene.
his muscles.
Yeah, with those muscles. And he was just like, yeah, I do Amazon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you do Amazon? I'm like,
You my guy.
I'm like, I do Amazon,
Yeah.
but not Amazon.
Yeah.
And then, so we actually started with one project.
Okay.
And I still remember this moment. We're at a coffee shop, you know, and talking. And I just said, hey, man, I just met you. I don't know you too well.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust this guy.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Business is
just met him, you know, like a week ago. And we literally had like a moment, like a firm handshake. We said, okay, I said, hey, I got one account I want you to try out, and let's see how it goes. And we both stood up. Did
Shook
that
your hand.
like official, like legit handshake.
did the
Yeah, you know. And then that was that. And that was, you know, I would say, 5 years ago.
wow.
And then look at where we are
That's
now.
the genesis of it.
That's the genesis of it.
Gotcha.
And you're not talking about the Bible.
Not the Bible, but we can talk about the Bible. So what the biggest thing that I'm noticing here is that there was a big gap between what was needed for the Taiwanese companies and the American market.
Well, here's the thing, though, and I feel really bad for a lot of the Taiwanese, these manufacturers and brands is, unfortunately, like in this industry here in Taiwan, you know, a lot of companies are not doing a great job. Right. And when I say not a great job is, you know, in the Amazon business, a lot of it is PPC ads and running ads. And, you know, like a lot of the stuff is very technical.
Yes.
And what I don't like is that, you know, a lot of companies are not very transparent. So, you know, we often, you know, a lot of our clients, actually 2/3 of our clientele is from other agencies. And we hear
Coming to you guys.
Yeah, and we hear these horror stories.
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, they would be like, yeah, we signed up, you know, we got pressure to sign a 1-year contract.
Yes.
And then so you're locked in a 1-year contract.
And then they take care of all the
and then you have meetings all the time, right?
Marketing.
And then they just go, oh yeah, your product's not selling. We can't tell you much, but we're gonna, and they say this in Chinese, you know, we're gonna keep trying.
Okay.
And that's like literally the term that everybody tells me. 我们会继续试试看. And that's like I'm like, oh my gosh. When I hear that, I get really mad.
Yeah.
Because that's such BS.
Yeah, like what are they actually doing?
Yeah, what are you actually doing? And so this is the culture that we're trying to change here in Taiwan is transparency. So first of all, our company, we don't do like 1-year contracts, none of that.
Okay.
We literally just do a trial period, and we don't even take on most of our clients. And the reason is because there's a lack of transparency in today's industry.
Yeah.
When, let's say you're selling this cup, and I know this cup's not going to sell.
Okay.
So now if I want to make money from you,
You'll still take on the job.
I'll be like, yo, your cup here?
Yeah.
Dude, it's going to kill it. Let me show
Gotcha.
you some advanced statistics of, you know, like how this cup's going to do well. I'm going to show you the best cups and how much, you know, how well they're doing.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, well, you can't use that stat.
Right.
Because that's a brand that's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
You're a new brand, unheard, nobody know who you are. How are you going to sell that cup?
Yeah.
Is your cup better than their cup? And is it cheaper than them? Because if it's better, then you can sell for more. If it's not, you better sell it for cheaper.
Yeah.
So my basis is every meeting that comes into my company, I go through my 30-minute, and then I go through their stuff, and then at the end of the day, I have a research report using data, supported not by my own opinion, what I think, using data, and tell you a story and say, hey, unfortunately, you know what? There's about 30 other sellers selling the exact same thing for $5.99. You're trying to sell it for $10.99, and yours is not any better. We're not going to do it.
Gotcha.
Even if you pay us $1 million, I won't take you on as a client.
Wow.
Because ethically speaking, I think we're wasting our time.
Yeah.
And I'm using data to communicate that.
Right.
So this is the business ethics that I'm talking about. I want to be ethical about my business.
Yeah.
So I don't go for that short-term money.
Yeah.
And so a lot of companies, you know, they really appreciate that.
Of course, 100%.
And some may even think and be like, man, you're kind of a prick. Like, you're so direct. Like you're crapping on my product.
Gotcha. Yeah. Too straightforward.
But I'm kind of like, well, I feel like I'm doing you a service.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I've had literally, you know, clients that were like, okay, you know what? We're not going to go with you. We're going to go with another company. And I was like, oh, wait, I never wanted to take you on in the first place. But if you want to go somewhere to someone that's going to sell you a dream.
Right.
And to make you feel like this is going to sell.
Yeah.
And you want to spend a lot of money on that, that's on you.
Okay.
That's fine. But one day you're going to realize, wake up, and you're going to say, oh man, that James guy with Real Digital.
Yeah.
Oh man, he wasn't joking. He was right.
Right.
We didn't sell. And I hope that that's going to put some, you know, respect on our brand.
Yeah.
Because of that transparency.
Right.
Now I lost on that sale. I didn't make that money.
Yeah.
Because I chose not to. Because I believe that it's all about long term.
Yeah.
And I only want to build the brands in Taiwan that have the highest potential because I want to help Taiwan's economy.
Right.
And I don't want to waste time on brands that's not going to sell.
Yeah.
So there's a huge difference there where 99% of the companies in my industry, they're going for that short-term money.
Yeah, of course. They're taking what they can get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not about that. I'm here to stay.
Right.
We're not doing this like trying to make money for a year or two and then, you know, take the money and jet and go into a different industry. No, we want to be the #1 Amazon agency in Taiwan.
Okay.
And, you know, winning the award was a great first step.
Yeah.
But nowhere are we near even where we want to be.
Oh, that's awesome. So that's good. That's good insight because I think it's interesting to hear some of the, you know, mindset differences. And maybe we can, yeah. And that's something I kind of want to get into a little more. Just like in terms of culture, and you've experienced multiple. What do you think is the biggest difference in terms of mindsets for Taiwanese companies and the Western mindset?
Scarcity.
Okay.
Scarcity being a pretty big one. And I think scarcity and comparison.
So because they're scared, it causes them to...
Yeah. It's like everyone's fighting and...
trying to fight for scraps.
Yeah, fighting for scraps. And so what happens is you dilute the whole industry with this kind of mindset.
Okay.
And I think, you know, in that sense, then when you're doing that, you kind of mess up what the actual final goal is.
Right.
Because our company's goal is pretty simple. Is to, our goal, our mission statement is to to help Taiwan and turn it into a powerhouse in the e-commerce. Okay. And we've been able to do that with our clients.
Yeah.
You know, we're doing like so much in revenue for a lot of these brands, sometimes doubling, tripling the revenue. And so that's how we want to help Taiwan's economy.
Okay.
So if your company, that's your mission statement, that's your goal, you will do whatever it is to make that a reality.
For sure.
But for a lot of companies, you have some BS mission statement and all you're trying to do is, I need more revenue. I just need to try to make money somehow. And I'm fighting for scraps because everyone is lowering their price. So everyone wants their CP value.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like, no, we don't do that.
Yeah. You want the quality.
It's about quality at the end of the day. We're not here selling McDonald's cheeseburgers, you know, at the end of the day.
But you could.
But I could, but I chose not to. Yeah. And if you come here, try to get that McDonald's price, then I'll be like, the door is right there. Thank you for coming. We are not the company you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
So the cultural differences in these, you know, the Taiwanese mindset versus the Western mindset, how do, like, of course, once you share this with the clients, how do they typically take it? Because I will first say, and we both know this, Asia is a culture of saving face. Yep. And it's a very hard thing to hear, like you mentioned earlier, like if somebody's crapping on my company or something that they hold precious to. And so how do they take criticism and how do you...
Shock.
Yeah, how do you address that?
Yeah, shock.
It's just shock because nobody's ever told them that, perhaps.
Because, like I said, I'm from the West.
Yeah,
I'm direct. You know me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I'm probably one of the most direct people you've met. And so for me, but for work, I do have to tone it down a little bit.
Right.
In the sense that I'm not like, hey, your stuff sucks. No, it's not like that.
Of course.
You know, I am kind of finessing, and that's something I had to learn to adapt to Taiwan's culture.
Right.
Because when I first moved here, being my personality is too strong.
Yeah.
People can't take it. In the West, you can.
Right.
You know, but Taiwan, you can't.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust.
Could be personal. They could take it personally.
Exactly.
Right?
They do take it personal. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And so I've had to adapt. But at the end of the day, my messaging doesn't change.
Okay.
And it's just that I use different ways to, you know, kind of soften the blow a little bit.
Yeah.
And so the first reaction is usually shock.
Shock.
And after shock, there's, you know, a couple of ways you can go about it.
Right.
One is denial, where sometimes people get in that stage. I've had meetings.
They're like, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
I had a meeting where literally a guy, you know, he was there and then he was just like, I don't know if I can accept that. And I don't know if I agree. And then so, you know, for me, it's not an ego. This is not an ego test.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm here as a professional to break down, you know, it's like I'm like your blood test.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, and your glucose levels are high.
Right.
And you can't be like,
the stats
are there.
Yeah.
You can't be like, what?
Yeah.
You're wrong. The glucose levels are not that high. It's like, what you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Look at the sheet.
Yeah.
Check the stats. And so I always go back to the stats and the fact that my background, my pedigree in working with Amazon, being their, you know, kind of, you know, the face of kind of like, you know, the branding consultant for a lot of the Amazon brands and how much experience I have, they usually there's some added weight there.
Of course. Yeah.
And then so I use that in the data and to explain it to them. And so one, shock, denial, and then, but I have a whole process because I deal with these people so much, especially B2B owners.
Right.
Who are very traditional, probably never too familiar with, you know, marketing.
Yes.
And for B2B owners, they don't want to spend $1 on marketing.
Oh, yeah.
You talk about
they
mindset.
don't see the importance
of
it, right?
You want to talk about mindset. They were like, wait, what?
Yeah, why?
Why would I spend $1 on marketing when I'm on B2B and I sell each one, even though I make only 20 cents per item, but I'm making the 20 cents in cash.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the mindset twist that I usually have to do. And I have to do all this in like within 30 minutes.
Wow.
Because I don't like to have long meetings.
Well, so then how can you give us the solution then? What do you think is the solution to these like traditional mindset, kind of like immersing and helping them recognize the importance of what you're doing?
You want to know the solution? The solution is just having a 30-minute meeting with me. I'm not even joking.
Okay, so if people are curious, they'll have to go to Real Digital.
I'm not joking. And I've had so many clients that literally say, and they go, hey, James, I just came off a 3-hour call with these other companies. How the heck were you able to explain everything so clearly within 30 minutes they couldn't do in 5 hours?
Yeah. You know what? I appreciate that a lot because you have many bosses or many just like people in management who have these meetings. And I'm sure lots of people have experienced it. You sit there, you're not sure what you're talking about. What's the objective? What's the point? Beat around the bush. You come out of it. You're like, what just happened?
Yeah. I mean, I've probably done a couple 100 pitches and based on my experience, I've always tweaked our PPT, our proposal, always, you know, changing it because my thing is I want to get out of this meeting ASAP.
Okay.
And it used to go from 90 minutes, then it went to an hour, and now it's like 30 minutes. We've got the system down.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you think is the trend that's happening now? Do you see Taiwan moving towards even a more prosperous future in terms of e-commerce and our companies transforming? Yeah.
I think right now, a lot of Taiwanese brands, especially some of our clients, are actually doing very well on the e-commerce space. And I think, you know, because of the drop shipping trend and whatnot, there's also a lot of people in Taiwan really interested in e-commerce.
Yeah.
So that's the part that actually what we're trying to do as a company is to educate. Okay. So we have an internship program at Real Digital. We're really educating a lot of the, you know, our interns to learn about e-commerce.
Yeah.
And that's not something most companies are willing to do.
Right.
And that's the thing that I heard. I was just talking to, you know, some colleagues and they were saying that a lot of companies now, they have programs for interns and it's like, all right, go give me a coffee.
Oh,
go make me some photocopies.
Yeah.
And then these, you know, very well qualified, capable students are literally sitting there for 3 months, wasting their time. At the end of it, they're like, WTF, like, what the heck? You just had me fetch coffee. I didn't learn anything. But that's, you talk about, you know, like the almost like the hierarchy and the tradition in companies. That's how it is in Taiwan. Yeah. They don't value talent. They value how long have you been here at this company.
You show me, they put in the time.
And that's the opposite of what we're trying to do. Okay. So we're literally, I have a 3 months program that literally includes self-help e-commerce program. By the end of the 3 months, I want you to be sufficient enough to know e-commerce and how to do product research, how to find out, whether a product is going to sell or not, what the Google trends are, and as well as actually field experience in working on projects with our team.
Nice. So these are like local kids.
A lot of them are, university students. Some are, our last batch literally one was a university student and the other one just had finished university and then had, some work experience.
That's good because I feel like, obviously besides doing work and doing it in an ethical way and kind of approaching business from this mindset, it's so important to also like invest into that next generation, right? To keep this growing, to keep it going. And so that's very important to have to like pay out the next generation.
But see, that's the scarcity effect that I'm talking about that Taiwan suffers from.
Right.
Because most companies, especially in my field, are afraid to invest in their employees, and because they're afraid that they're just going to go off, start their own companies. And with us, we're kind of like, hey, if our employee wants to, like I was talking with Eugene about this. If our employee wants to go and do their own thing and start their own business, great. Maybe we'll even invest in him.
Yeah.
Like you want to encourage.
It's not like fight each other, It's like you're building each other up.
Exactly. So I had an employee, one of my first employees, literally, she's now in Germany. And then her dream when she worked for me, she was like, hey, James, my dream is to one day work in Germany. Wow. And I said,
look at that.
I want to support that.
Yeah.
How can I support?
Yeah.
And so I trained her up. And then you know what? She worked for me for like, I think 2 years. She got an opportunity and she said, hey, James, I got that opportunity.
Wow. And
then she left. Wow. And then I think a year later, she sends me a message, like a heartwarming message. She said, James, I just wanted to thank you. Working with you for those 2 years gave me the skill set I needed to actually qualify for this job. And now I got the offer and I'm living my dream. I just want to thank you for mentoring me and giving me this opportunity to live my dream.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And for me, it was like when I first met her and she came on board, I never thought like, oh, she's eventually going to leave.
Yeah.
So you know what? I'm not going to invest in her. I don't want to help her because she's not helping me.
Right.
That's like me.
Mindset.
Yep. I don't think like that. I think like, okay, this person, for the time being, she's going to stick around for a while. I'm going to train her up. And if I train her up and she lives her dream, you know what? Whether she comes back to me or not, it doesn't matter. I'm actually helping someone.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the mindset, that's the abundance mindset that I think a lot of these companies in Taiwan need to have.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's how the next generation is going to prosper.
Yeah.
Because if you don't pass down, it's like martial arts. If you don't pass down to the next generation and everyone doesn't have the knowledge, then you're the only one, you're the one holding
on to all of it.
And then, I mean, you may make money, you can be successful and whatnot because you're, hoarding it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, does this society benefit from that? Does Taiwan benefit from? And that's the question I often ask myself. What am I doing to help Taiwan?
Yeah.
Because Taiwan has given me so much. I mean, I consider Taiwan my home now over the States.
Right.
And so if I'm going to treat this place like it's my home, then I better invest in it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Now to end off here, can you tell us, obviously, from all your experience and stuff, I'm sure you have had experience where you had a downfall or a failure or something that you've done wrong, right? So looking back, knowing what you know now, what would be the advice you give your younger self?
Be proud of it.
Proud of?
Proud of your failures. Okay. And I give this advice. I'll give you an example. We had a situation where, dude, not every brand we do succeeds.
Right.
And never do I ever try to. I don't do guarantees. And I don't ever tell people. I actually have this in my company proposal, failed case studies.
Okay.
And the reason is because, I think earlier when I was younger, I would be like, oh, I need to hide that.
Right.
Like, I want a spotless record when people talk about me.
Only
it's like, good. I only want to show them the good case studies. And then there was a moment I was like, no, that's not real.
Right.
Because most companies are showing case studies from like 10 years ago.
Right.
It's like, okay, bro, that happened 10 years ago. What's new? And so then I started to embracing my own failures.
Yeah.
And then kind of, like battling. And that's a mental battle you have to have yourself. You got to be secure enough that you acknowledge and accept your failures.
Yeah.
And I think in Asia, a lot of times people really run away from their failures.
Yes. They don't want to.
They sweep it under the rug.
Yes.
And they just pretend like it didn't happen. And there's a certain, like traumatic experience.
Yeah.
And when you don't acknowledge it, you don't address it, you can't actually really get over it.
And you don't grow.
Yeah, and you don't grow. And so for me, I definitely want to show off my case studies that I failed. Gotcha. And I tell them exactly why and what we learned from it. And, we're always going to give 100% and we're not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And if you expect us to be perfect, It's not going to happen because nobody is.
Going to be disappointed.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm getting better every time. Every account. Every time we do a new Amazon account, we're getting better and better. And so I think that would be the one thing that I would tell my younger self. No, don't try to hide those failures.
Right.
Learn from it, and then but really address it.
Yeah.
Don't pretend like it didn't happen.
Right.
Because you are not going to grow from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's perfect. I can relate to that. I think personally, I've also, in the past, as like most of us, we don't want to put out dirty laundry, right? You don't want to hang your dirty laundry out there.
Asian people hate that.
Yeah. So for sure, like it's always the easier way to kind of sweep it under the carpet and pretend to have everything together. But I think the older you get, the more you recognize that like it's these moments, you know, that you learn from, especially, right? All of us will have these moments, but if you don't learn from them and you just keep making the same mistakes over and over, you'll remain where you are. And stagnant water is not good, right? Yeah. So that's a very great insight. And thank you for sharing some of your insight about your company. And hopefully, maybe you'll get some more clients now.
Hit me up.
Yeah, hit up James. So we're going to talk another episode.
Yes.
And this episode is going to be about how we kind of basically met and the genesis of Salt Collective.
And I brought 2 outfits, so I'm going to change so you guys see me in a...
Yes.
Yeah.
Do stay tuned for that, and we will see you on the next episode.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.